have any more questions, I'll give you a call, but I think we're in good shape right now.
I sure can. Can you hear me? Good Lord.
Just get ready to start.
Isn't that what you said? Yeah. It's not the same when Dora said it.
And not myself? That's fantastic. Thank you. That's great, yeah. Darren, do you know if I have presentation capabilities? Because then I can pull up the audit here and have that visible for everyone. Okay, well, there we go. We might try it and see what happens. All right, thank you.
I would like to call our regularly scheduled meeting of the East Dubuque Board of Education to order. It is November 20th at 6 p.m. Roll call, please.
Bolton, here. Belver, here. Foot,
Here.
Shower, here. Sent,
Here.
Knockout, Kuzma,
And move on to pledge to the flag. Moving on to the consent agenda. And I do know that there was a change to the amount on the board bills. So there's a new agenda with that new amount that we will be approving.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as stated for the Board of Education monthly meeting on November 20th, 2024, with the adjusted amount of board bills for $615,987.78.
It's been moved by Dave, second by Esta. Roll call, please.
Bolton, Belver, Foot,
Aye.
Shower, Sent.
Aye.
Moving on to recognition of visitors and correspondence, we have our student council representative. Would you like the microphone? It is on.
Good evening, school board members. I am Vice Vice President Joe Delaney of the High School Student Council. I am here to report Student Council's progress and plans for the upcoming rest of the year. Accomplished so far, our budget now remains at $1,337.56. We had a hot cocoa, apple cider, and iced chai stands during Halloween, which was a great hit that raised over $330 in sales. And also our giving trees for this year are set up. This is my 4th year doing it, and usually it's about 60 tags. This year it was around 200. So we are hoping that every kid this year gets a gift this year for Christmas. In progress now. Like I said earlier, giving tree tags are available in the office or in the main lobby, and all gifts and the tags will be turned in by December 9th. Also, a big thing going on now is our burger fundraiser with 231. The tickets are $10 each and are sold at 231 Coffee Bar and by student council members until Friday morning. This fundraiser is for former graduate Sadie Rinneker and will take place on November 24th from 4 to 7 p.m. Our plans for the future are student council closet will be cleaned out and organized on Monday, November 25th. We are also teaming up with the junior high student council with putting candy in lockers for students before Thanksgiving break. And we are also planning on a Christmas assembly and movie day for the high school on December 20th, which is the last day before Christmas break this year. That is all I have. Do I have any questions?
Where do you get the names for the tree? Why there's increases here?
I do not know full details on that. I believe Paige Johnston, who does?
Well, I can help answer that one for Joe. So part of it comes through the city, the city hall. They usually send us a list of some of the things that they get mixed up with. Paige is involved in that now with her, Thomas Ringer. Yeah, so kind of a combination of things.
I got something to add, Joe. So I talked to TJ about this last month. I'll put it in front of you because it is for the student council. So the Edge Foundation has, and Mr. Iyer and Mr. Sirgani were our esteemed judges last year. Oh, yeah. We would like to open it up to the student council to actually be judges, or if you can get seniors in high school to judge. We would, and I talked to TJ about this, we would like to get a bus of students on Friday, the 29th of November. We'll meet up here at the back at 4:30, and then we'll bus down to downtown, and we'll have all the judging criteria there and all the, everything that you need. We just need bodies.
What judging
For hometown decorating contest in downtown East Lee.
Lights.
Yes,
Friday?
the 29th.
Friday?
But we would meet here and then go down East Lee.
This would be the day after Thanksgiving.
Yes.
We will probably have one more brief meeting before Thanksgiving.
No.
You were employed by a business downtown.
This is,
I'm just seeing a conflict of interest.
this is a nonprofit organization, so everything is on.
Oh, okay.
Yes, you can vote if you are employed by a downtown.
Just asking.
So, Joe, I'll get you my email. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I just want to add that, I want to thank Joe for how he handles himself, how he organizes things.
job. Thank you.
That's in his other role with Leo.
All right, moving on, we have the Benning Group Audit Review. So we have our wonderful audit today, so I will hand it over to Jenny to give us that.
All right, thank you all. I'm glad that Darren turned it, so I'm looking at all of you and not at myself. That's always a little bit weird, so it's nice to see all of you. I normally love to come to these in person, but when the snow started flying this afternoon, I was very thankful that you all have the opportunity for me to just come in remotely and not have to drive that extra hour and a half in the snow. So thank you all for that very much. I'm going to attempt now to share my screen. We're going to just cross our fingers and hope for the best. We know how technology likes to cooperate sometimes. I think it might have. All right. How about that? 4 years into all this virtual stuff, we've figured a few things out by now, so that's great.
None of us can read it, but thank you for sharing.
All right, what we have here is the balance sheet for the district for the year. Because you are a cash basis reporter, this basically shows the cash balance per fund, and that essentially equals what your fund balance is by fund as well. There's not a lot of complicated accruals or receivables, payables, that sort of thing, because again, cash basis reporting, as revenue comes in the door, we record that as revenue in, and as you write checks and send those out the door, then that's considered an expenditure and revenue out, or expenditures out. So that does make things a little bit easier on the reporting side of things. Moving over to the next page, this is the summary of all of the revenues and expenditures by fund for the district for this past fiscal year. Very summarized view here. Certainly if you're interested in the detail, then you feel free to dive into your reports. All of the following pages after this start with the education fund and move through all of the funds of the district and do show each of those revenue and expense line items line by line with actual versus budget. If you really want to dive into the detail, it's all there for you. Just a few overall comments here on the page. One thing that does not show on the page is that as part of what we do with the audit, we also prepare that AFR that goes downstate to ISB. And in that, there is a financial profile score, which is calculated as part of the worksheet. Just to let you know that this year you scored a 3.55, which is still recognition status. So it is the highest classification for districts across the state. It is again on a 4.0 scale because why not? It is a school, so let's use a 4.0 scale. Last year it was 3.9, certainly a little bit of a drop this year, but because you had some larger expenditures this year, the expenditure to revenue ratio was a little bit off from where it had been in prior years. I believe that's just some carryover expenditures due to some of those capital projects that you had going on in 2023, which fell into FY 2024 based on the timing of those payments. So I would expect that that will probably right itself going into FY 2025. Here on the screen, you can see that you did have a few funds that performed in a deficit position for the year. So education, operations and maintenance, debt service, and capital projects, to name a few. I will tell you that all of the expenditures for the district were within budget. Only exception to that being the transportation fund, because you did have a new bus lease this year. And because of the way that we have to account for leases, it's a little bit more complex now. You essentially have to account for that as if you spent all of the lease funds within the current year, kind of like if you went out and got a loan and paid for that bus all at once. So that would be the only fund that actually had expenditures over budget by a smidge this year because of that. And certainly there while there was deficit spending in a lot of the funds this year, that was all planned. So most of the funds performed within reason of where the budget was for the year. So kudos to that as well. With the capital projects fund in particular, that $2.5 million spending looks like a scary number, but that is just, again, timing of the expenditures for that large capital project that was finished up in summer of 2023. You've got that fiscal year cutoff right in the middle of the summertime when all of the projects are being done because there's nobody in the buildings that time of year, and so those payments carried over into FY24. Going to move forward in the report here, again, hoping that technology is going to continue to cooperate with us here. Skipping past a lot of the footnotes, there are a lot of detailed footnotes in the middle, and I have gone over some of that information in the past as far as some of the pensions and fund balance. All of that detail is in there, and I know that we did spend some time between TJ and Lisa and Nikki and myself going through that in a lot of detail. So if you have any questions, certainly direct your questions to them, and if they'd like a little bit more clarification from me, I'd be happy to do that as well. But first, moving to some of the schedules in the back of your report, some of the things that we add in here that give you a little bit more information and help with some of the tax levy process and give you some other good information about the district here. This schedule, it's on page 73 of your report. I'm in page 77 of the PDF in case anybody's following along with an electronic copy. This does show the last 3 years worth of tax levies on a line-by-line basis, so you can see what the individual tax rates were for each of those levies and the line items. It also shows you what was received in early tax money in June this year versus last year. In FY24, we had reported early tax money of $1,163,000 compared to last year early tax money of $1,164,000. So consistency is great. We do like that. It doesn't play with the numbers too much. On the following page, we do have more of a 30,000-foot view of that same type of information for the last 10 years, looking at what your levy has been in that period of time as far as what your assessed valuation has done and what the total tax rate has been for the district in each of those years. So again, some good historical numbers and some information as you're moving into this levy season between November and December. One of the other things that we accumulate for you here in the back of the audit report is some information that does come from that AFR that goes to ISB. And this is something that we have found with a lot of the districts that we work with. They like to use this as kind of a comparison measuring stick of how they're doing compared to other schools that are in their area. The calculation is the operating expense per pupil. And as you can see, it has been pushing upward these last few years. I can assure you that that is perfectly normal. That is something that we are seeing across the board in all of the districts that we work with. Certainly a lot of COVID-related funding, and as those expenditures are pushed out for that funding, that will increase your spending. And with the cost of everything going up, staffing, supplies, etc., those costs do continue to go up, and we are seeing that trend universally. And last but not least, we do have the final page of your audit report, which does show fund balances over time. And this is on a fund-by-fund basis. Good historical information here to see where the district has been over the period of the last few years. And one of the other things that this schedule does show is if we take out the impact of that early tax money that comes in the month of June, because as you know, that's actually intended to be used in the following fiscal year. So right now in FY25, to support that fiscal year, because it's kind of a question mark from year to year whether or not you're actually going to get that before the end of June. So in the event that you would maybe have not received that, what would your fund balances have looked like at the end of June? So that information is in here as well. Any questions at all on the number side of things? Okay, I'm going to switch over. Oh, good, I can see that. Thanks for this platform. I can see what I have on the screen here, and it looks to me like you're now seeing a different letter on our letterhead, and hopefully you all are seeing that. All right, fantastic. This is the letter that we as auditors are required to give to you as the governing board of the organization each year. It goes through a summary of the audit, any kind of findings that we had as a part of the audit. So I'm just going to go through a few of the items on here. One of the things that we do highlight for your information is whether or not we had any larger adjustments during the year. That's in this section called the corrected and uncorrected misstatements. And we did have a few larger adjustments this year. As I mentioned, there was that lease that was new this year in the transportation fund. And because of the changes in the rules for leases over the last few years, we do have to treat that as a one-time purchase, almost as if you had financed that instead of just having the lease. And that was about $87,000 this year. We also had about $50,000 for certificates of deposit. In the past years, there had been an accumulation of interest that had posted to those CDs at the time that they renewed each year versus waiting until the final maturity. And that was not always picked up by the district because banks don't generally send out statements for the CD accounts. It's typically just your checking and savings and things like that. This year it was a little bit larger dollar amount, so we did record that. This was actually posted by the bank, so this does, it is in your CD account at this point in time. And because the rates have been pretty high the last few years, it was a larger adjustment this year for about $50,000. We also had an adjustment of about $26,000, making sure that the tax levy ended up in the right fund. I believe one of the payments ended up just getting plugged into the wrong fund, and we had to move that into the correct fund. And then about $60,000 for reporting within the tort fund. Nothing in particular that we saw that was in error, other than the fact that ISB has very particular buckets that they like to have everything reported in. And they had actually changed a few of those classifications within the tort reporting here within the last 5 years or so. And we have seen this with districts that sometimes there are some older expenditure accounts still hanging out there in your chart of accounts and get used by accident. So we did have about $60,000 that we just had to move from line to line in the tort fund for that. Back here in the back of the report, we also talk about internal control related items. As part of the audit each year, we are required to go through your processes, your procedures, checks and balances, and make sure that everything is functioning as we expect it should and as your procedures say it should. The good news is, in this section here does summarize that. We did not find anything that we consider to be a weakness or a deficiency, so that's fantastic. And once again, Lisa and the entire department there really kept things going for us for the audit. Great help during the audit, so very pleased everything went very smoothly this year. We did have a few comments, a few recommendations this year. One of the things that ISB actually requests us to look at specifically is whether everybody got their statement of economic interest filed by May 1st. Everybody loves this comment when we have to make it. We did have 2 people that did not file by that May 1st deadline. I'm not there in person to watch you all point fingers at each other, but that is one of the things that we did have to note as part of the audit. One of the other things that we noted this year was that there's always a very tight window of time to turn around the expenditure reports for the grants in particular at the end of each quarter. And we did see a few that did not get filed within that 20-day window after the end of the quarter for September of 2023. It's usually one of the busier quarters of the year, just starting getting things off the ground for the new year, so not a surprise by any means. And this is actually one of the most common comments that we have for the districts that we work with. And last but not least, we do have just a general recommendation here, and I know that our audit staff did talk about this with the folks there on site when we were there. But because of the way that the purchase orders are designed to help provide documentation for the purchase and who has requested the item, who has approved that purchase, we do just make a general recommendation that if you're going to use purchase orders within the district, to do that consistently, and then to make sure that the procedures are actually updated to have that process in there as well. All right, any questions for me beyond that?
I did have a question in regards to the corrected, uncorrected misstatements. So I heard you reference something about there were some outdated line items that were still outstanding that were no longer active. Is there a way for us to be proactive on removing those, or like, what, is there a process to help us so we don't utilize an outdated line item?
Right, and that's something that you can definitely work with the software vendor for the accounting system, and that's something that we can probably have a conversation with Lisa as well to see what their process would be for that. We do provide a listing in detail of all of the adjustments that we make as part of the audit, so we can work through that particular adjustment with her to show her which classifications are the older ones that should not be used anymore. And hopefully she can work with the software vendor to figure out their procedure for inactivating those accounts so that they can't be used anymore.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Blocker? All right, well, thank you very much. Appreciate everything. And, you know, I think, you know, working with you has been good, you know, from everything that I've heard. You know, so thank you. Appreciate all your work and effort to get us on track here. So, thank you.
Absolutely. We enjoy working with everyone there, and thank you again for the opportunity to come here virtually, and I'm just so glad that technology cooperated with all of us tonight. So thank you for that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a good night.
Good night.
All right, moving on to recognition of any other visitors. Anybody want to address the board? If not, we'll move on to staff reports. Mr. Heyer.
Thank you, sir. Well done to Mr. Sirianni on the tech savvy skills tonight. Parent-teacher conferences. We had them on October 23rd, 24th. Fantastic outing. It's just, you know, it's elementary school, so everybody and their brother comes out to see their teachers and spend some time. It's awesome. Just love the atmosphere. It's always a great time. Had a nice little raffle, and it's just, you know, it always feels like everybody's sort of hanging out. Like if we had goodies there, people would be there all night. It's awesome. So anyway, it was great conferences. It's great to catch up with parents and see so many come out and connect with us. And a huge thank you to some of the local businesses, those who donated a bunch of items and whatnot for our raffle. So it was a great time. Good start to the school year. As usual, this is actually almost exactly similar to what I used last year for Leffelholtz's. They brought in, once again, just a ton of great winter gear for a bunch of our families. So we kind of redid and re-cleaned up our old locker rooms in the elementary school. We got a couple huge shelving areas that are fully devoted to boots and snow pants and all kinds of clothing, and Leffelholtz is doing an incredible job of replenishing a lot of that, and we really do appreciate that. Actually, just today I gave a new 5th grader a brand new jacket because it was darn cold outside. Let me just say that, unexpectedly chilly. And so huge thank you to them again this year for being so generous and, you know, really proactively bringing it before any of us even mentioned anything to them. They were already on top of it, so huge thank you to them. Fall book fair we did again with the parent-teacher conference this year, and Mrs. Ward did an incredible job. This is actually up about $400 or $500 compared to last year at this similar time. So just more kids buying books. That's a great problem. So anyway, we love the piece too. We get to donate a bunch back to our building, so through Scholastic Dollars. And then the old pumpkin run we started the school year with on October 11th, and it was a beautiful outing that day. Had a ton of families to come out to cheer their kids on for only 2 laps, but it was great, very suspenseful. We had a lot of fun. So anyway, great job to the kids and families. Huge thank you for them for coming out, and Mr. Ayers for coordinating it. And that's about it for our month.
Any questions for Mr. Heyer?
Thanks, Wes.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it. Moving on, Mr. Sirianni.
All right, so start off with activities. So all of the fall activities have now concluded. It's been a month, and I wasn't here in October, so just to kind of keep everybody up to speed, the football team did qualify for the playoffs this year, which was our first year of eligibility. So for East Dubuque, it was our first time since, 2012, I believe, so 12 years. And I believe Southwestern had been since about 15 years. So for both schools, it was great to get there. Did run into a very good team, but it was still good to get there. Volleyball finished up 3rd in the conference and had a very tough 3-set match with Eastland. Could have gone either way, and unfortunately fell short there. Cross country had a great season. They won both the boys and girls conference championships. The boys team ended up advancing to the sectional level, and one of the boys from Galena, I believe it is, advanced as an individual to the state meet. So a good season for cross country. Winter activities are already going. Junior high boys have played, I believe they're up to 5 or 6 games already, so they're almost halfway through their season. High school girls started on Monday of this week, and they are playing again tonight in the Warren Turkey Tournament. So they won their first game and play Freeport tonight, so we'll find out how they did. High school starts their games on Monday in the Scales Mound Turkey Tournament. Archery and wrestling have both begun, and we did have enough interest that we are reviving the cheer program. As they will be ready to go here maybe by the end of December, but for sure by January to cheer at the home games. So going to be a busy stretch here. Scholastic Bowl started practicing as well, and they don't have meets till January, so we got a little time there. Veterans Day was mentioned, but can't say thank you enough to the Leo Club and everybody that helped put that on. I know Mrs. Renison and Miss Stearman and several of the teachers were involved, veterans that were able to be here. I know, Christina, you were part of the group that came. First time in a long time that we've had it on Veterans Day, so we were kind of unsure of what the turnout would be, but I think it was as good as we could have hoped for. I think we had about 35 veterans and then their family and friends that came with them, plus all of the students. So it was a great day and a great reason to get together. So many more years of that, hopefully. End of the semester. This year, we are finishing the first semester prior to leaving for winter break, which is a change. In the past, it's always been come back in January, have a week of classes, take final exams for the high school. I know it doesn't affect the elementary and the junior high as much because most of them are not based on semester-long classes, but it will be interesting to see how it goes. It's been, I want to say it was in the late 2008-9 range that we tried it for a year or two, and then went back to finishing after winter break. So we'll see how this goes, but the week of December 17th, 18th, and 19th will be high school final exams, pending any Mother Nature interference. So we'll, that'll be here soon enough. And then the final thing I had was just staff and community. Joe had mentioned in his report about what we were doing, or what the student council was doing for Sadie Riniker. The staff in the high school junior high for the month of November did a donation for a Jeans Month. Just collected the last of that money, so we'll be sending a check to the Rinikers for $460 from the staff. And the month of October, there was a teacher in Galena who has been diagnosed with cancer recently, and so we did a Jeans Month for that teacher and sent a check over that way, which was in a similar amount, but I don't have the exact number in my mind. But just shows, you know, and Wes talks about it from time to time at the elementary as well. Whenever there's somebody in need, the staff, the community of East Dubuque, it's a blessing to be a part of the community because everybody stands together and comes up big when you need to help. So, and then if you look at the dates to remember coming up, things get busy, especially once we get back from Thanksgiving. So the gyms will be in full use. Any questions? All junior high games are being played in the new gym. Volleyball season did, and now boys basketball. And by all accounts, it's been working out great. I think the bleachers are big enough. You're never packed. You're never to the point where people don't have room to sit. And to have their own space, it's been great. And I know Glenn and Christina, you've been there for different events. It gets loud. We might have to look into some sound shells, or not shells, but some sound panels to stop some of the echo, but we'll come up with a way to get that so it doesn't feel like an echo chamber at times, but the facility itself is great.
Yeah, I would agree. It's working out really well. How is practices working out? Are they able to get practices in a little more?
The latest that we have any one of our school teams practicing is 8 o'clock at night, which in the past we've had groups in at 5:30 or 6 in the morning to get in before school. We've had groups that have had to practice at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. depending on when games are being played here. So we've now got youth groups and others that are able to utilize the gym, even on weeknights, which that's never been an option since I've been here. So it's getting well used.
Excellent. Any other questions? Thank you, appreciate it. All right, moving on to Mr. Potts' report. He is out this evening. Grover, would you like an opportunity to go through your items?
Absolutely, thank you for the opportunity. Gym storage off the new gym is coming along nicely. The last part of it will be us painting it, and the sprinkler system will be installed on the 27th, the day that we are not in school. We've been really busy with the baseball, softball, football fields, aerated, sprayed, concession stands, and sprinklers have all blown out and winterized. We had our ROE and fire marshal inspection on the 15th. It has been, I just got the reports back, and it's the shortest list that I've ever seen. So kudos to the teachers who done some good housekeeping, and my guys for just getting everything in order. So I'm really happy with the report that we have for that. Just a thing with the issue with that Darren put out with the different health issues going around in the flu season coming up. My crew has been doing some extra deep cleaning and disinfecting and sanitizing of all the rooms, all the fixtures and handles and stuff like that. So that's all I have right now. Just a trivia for you on adding to the Veterans Day. We now have the little kids get involved, learn all about Veterans Day. We bust them up, and they are here for Veterans Day to see their grandpas and great grandpas and whoever else is in. And it's been 2014 was the first year that we started doing that. So now it's 10 years going. So it's great to see.
That's great. I like that. Thank you, Grover.
And obviously that inspection that took place last Friday, Grover gave thanks to a lot of other people, but Grover's the one that makes sure that everything is the way it is. So thank you, Grover.
Yeah.
Thanks, Grover.
Great work. And can you spray down TJ before and after every day too, going forward? All right, so for transportation, just anybody interested in driving buses, please reach out. We would be happy to get you licensed. So, and then sweet. And from Mr. Potts's report, I see there's an item for the speech language pathologist. Appreciate Ms. Jackson coming back and helping out. Any kind of movement at all? I know it's kind of a tough thing, so.
It is, so we did need to, I can speak to that, we did need to plan something, 'cause right now she's working 4 days a week. And even then, we've had some additional pre-K needs, probably need more of it, what we're adding enough that we will have at least what we did last year in terms of support. We just have some kids we're not servicing, and as much support as them. And so we're adding teletherapy, it's not our ideal option, unfortunately, So
Can't compete.
that's kind of, some of those chasms, we're gonna have to find some strategies to get around, but that's the unfortunate truth.
Okay. Thank you for walking through that. So that's all we have there. Some of that we will come back to and discuss during our new business items. So, moving on then to unfinished business. Any old business anybody would like to discuss? All right, moving on to new business. 6.1 is informational. There was a FOIA request from A. Anthony, and that was responded to. I believe it has all the details within there for that. And then there was also 6.2 is a FOIA request for retiring teachers at the end of the 24-25 school year. So that's been taken care of as well. And then also a Smart Procure FOIA request for 6.3 for general purchasing records, which is a standard one that we received. 6.4 is informational. We were awarded a school maintenance project grant, so that's great news. Anybody have any additional information on that they want to discuss? I'm not sure if so. That's great. We'll take it. Good work to whoever submitted. And
It's matching $50,000 grant, he put in for, and they review it, and there's only so many items that can be matched at this point, and we don't have that.
okay, well, no, I'm not expecting to have it, but that's great because I didn't even see on here the amount. So $50,000 matching. So that's great news. All right, 6.5 is an action item to review 7-180 prevention of and response to bullying, intimidation, and harassment policy. Any specific comments on those changes to this policy? Okay, so no changes from last year's.
I'm assuming the only changes would be like the removal of Nate Tyler in certain parts too, where he might have been the first person or a person who was.
Gotcha. No, Mr. Potts is the non-discrimination, and then complaint managers, we have Wes and Darren. So, okay. It's been moved by Dan,
Second.
second by Dave to approve our review of the 7-180. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. All right. Then we'll move on to 6.6, which is approval of a contract with FEH for the FEMA grant project. So just to give a little bit of detail, the Building and Grounds Committee met with Jordan Buss and Kevin Epperly from FEH. Jordan Buss is a independent, I guess, contractor, I'll call him, that does grant writing, but FEH had been involved with some projects that he was involved in, and he was able to get grant funding for several different schools up in Wisconsin for this through this FEMA grant project. And you know, basically what it is they look at your location and identify, okay, how many people can be impacted in the event of some catastrophic event, you know, tornado, you know, whatever. And they then are able to say, okay, I think there was, they take all the people in the school and anybody within a half mile or half a mile radius of the school. And those people all would qualify to come to this location. And then the money that they are able to get for the grant is based off of that count. And then the matching amount from the school is based on your financial aspect and stuff like that. So they believe that we would qualify for a 90-10. So we would have to do a 10% match of whatever that is. And so this agreement would be to have FEH and go into actually working through what that contract would, or not the contract, but what the work would be. So they're talking about building 4 new rooms. Is that correct, Grover? I don't know if you have.
I don't know if you got the finished design yet. The total building would be approximately 8,000 square feet, 89,000 square feet, and that's all based on what Glenn said is the population within a half mile, the school population and stuff like that. So it's gonna be a 9,000 roughly square foot building where you can do classrooms, you can do a multi-purpose room, or however you want to design it. So there's no stipulations on how you design it, just as long as it's available for emergencies and stuff like that. So.
For a certain dollar amount, or is it just a whatever 9% of
The grant would be identified by the number of individuals that are able to be qualified within our area. So they would do that review and say, okay, there's 750, I forget what the number was. It's right around 700 to 800, somewhere in that ballpark. And then they take and say, okay, based off of that number, this is the dollar value that you would be eligible for through the grant.
So we actually have to, part of it is we have to submit an architectural design along with the grant submission. So part of this will be having FEH design what this building would look like under the stipulation of 750 people or whatever it is, and the square footage that would be allowed.
with the design, there would be a preliminary cost
Yes.
on that, and then they would approve it, and we could possibly qualify for 90% reimbursement.
If we get the grant, we would get, what Jordan estimated was that looking at our finances compared to other schools that he's done this grant for, we would qualify for 90% of the cost of that building.
And when that comes in, it comes back to us for approval, so we can
It would come through, right, we'd have to then,
decide whether we would go ahead with it.
right,
Well, there's some stipulations. If we apply for the grant and get it, we have like 2 years
yeah, there's
to complete the project. Once we apply for the grant, if we get it, we can't say, no, thanks, I think I believe.
I was under the impression that you did not have to use it, that it could, like, if you did nothing, that money would just go.
Well, if we have a $200,000 project, and they say, well, we'll only do $100,000 for the other $100,000. So basically, 50/50, we wouldn't have the right to say, well, we just.
My understanding was that we did not have to. If it wasn't done within the 2 years, you just don't get the money for
The
it.
next item where we're approving the consulting fee to help write this fee grant, it's got in here that his fee could be reimbursed under the terms of the grant. We use that money. And we'll go ahead with it.
Correct, whatever he's identified within this contract, yep, correct, yep. All right, so I think that covers everything. Any other questions on that?
It does talk about like a termination fee in here, 119. So is that termination fees that are only like if we decide to terminate this after the work is started?
Which, and I'm sorry, where are you referencing?
It's page 19, 9.7.
For its convenience pursuant to 9.5.
That would go to the architect for their services up to that.
this contract would not be, like, I don't think terminate would be if we don't get, if we aren't eligible for the grant or whatever, for whatever reason, it would not fall into a termination. I think this is terminating for
They don't
our
get approved for the
benefit.
grant, that's not a termination, it's just we don't get the grant.
Yeah, this does talk about termination with the actual architectural firm.
Yeah.
If we decide to terminate with them,
Yeah.
we still have to pay them $2,000, but if we want to keep their plans or their instruments of service, then we have to reimburse $5,000. So,
Good question. Any other questions?
I'm curious, what is the success rate of this grant writing for JVAE solutions?
Well, MPH recommended him because he has been extremely successful.
He's been extremely successful, only in Wisconsin. We asked the question, has this been done in Illinois? And he says, no, none of the schools have been. I don't know if anybody applied in Illinois or they just haven't written the grant for Illinois. But everything he's dealt with was with Wisconsin. Cuba City just received a $8 million FEMA grant for last year for this shelter. Darlington got a $4.6 million grant 2 years ago. And it's checking in with the vendors that I have that does work with those and just to make sure. I want to know how things work, so I run an order situation, which is they have the doors tied in with the national insurance. So when we have a tornado warning, the doors automatically open. Well, someone doesn't have to be here to monitor it. So he's had success with intervening with all the schools in Wisconsin. It's a new venture in Illinois, so obviously, and it's FEMA, it's not Illinois state specific, so it's not everyone. So he's pretty confident in what he does. And Cuba City applied 2 years ago, they were turned down, reapplied, and they got it worked this last time. So
Yeah, the way he kind of explained it is there's different levels, and based on our level, he has a very high, comfort level that we would qualify. But, obviously, it's out of the things, but we are at that high level of all of there's 5 different categories. I forget the number of categories, but there's so many categories that they're ranking, and like one of them's like 60% of the total, and he's like, you are at basically at like almost the highest level of that 60%, and then everything else just kind of falls into place from there. So I think as long as we can identify our need, and we met with the city council, or the city manager, I should say, I don't know if the council was there. I wasn't able to make it.
yeah, city manager, well, we'll talk about that in a second, but city manager is really receptive to everything. It's a win-win for everybody. The reason what we have to involve the city is it has to go through the municipality. So, and they don't have any issue with doing it. He's gonna get the three council's blessing on it. But the meeting with Bob went really well.
All right, so,
What we would be voting on is,
Right now, we're going track.
so what we're voting on today, just to clarify, is a retainer fee. So like, if we vote yes, what are we spending today? What are we committing to spend today?
this,
Anything?
It's 3 different votes.
Yes.
3 different action items.
The architect, so they can just.
We're not that far yet.
yeah, so this is the architect that we're
So
working
if we
to
vote
right
yes
now.
on this, are we committing to spend anything if we vote yes on this one?
Yes, there is a fee for the design, and it's in here, I just did not. Yeah, sorry.
The initial estimate for
The initial estimate, yes, I think their initial estimate, oh no, that's for the total amount of the project, 5 million, for the the project. I know I saw it somewhere, but I think I remember where it's at. It's a good question to know what you're voting for the amount, but I swore it was, here, I know I read it. I want to say it was 15, 16, something along those lines.
And then would it be part of this one, the JV and B station again?
Well, that I believe is just for the, with Jordan. The contract with Jordan. And that one, I don't clearly have it on the front page. I'm gonna text TJ and just see if he's. If you wanna try calling him. No. Cause, yeah, this is just for like the blueprints and everything, and gosh, I don't know where I saw it, I swore it was here.
Well, but the people were on at the time,
initial study, looks like 5 would be eligible. You might need 7 for the building. And how do you divide the cost between eligible and ineligible, that kind of stuff. It's, on the other ones that we're working on, the hourly approach is between $20,000 and $30,000 because we don't have any design started with the other ones that we're working on. With you guys, we've kind of got a design started, and we would just have to figure out, okay, for this addition, what parts of the design are going to be part of the grant application, part of this tornado safe room. So my guess is it's toward the lower end of that, closer to the 20,000 for our work through the process. The grant writer's fee, JBAD, their fee is $13,750. It's kind of their standard fee, and we're doing 5 different tornado safe room applications with them. That's why I know that one off the top of my head.
Yeah, and we do have that number shown on our contract for
Okay, good.
So thank you for that. So you're roughly guesstimating on the lower side of the 20 to 30,000.
Yes.
Based on an hourly rate.
Yep.
That would be what?
Yes. And anything we do, the design component of that, that's when the project gets approved, that's credited back toward your total fee. Because we're doing design work, obviously. You don't have to redo it. There's a little bit of extra time answering questions. We would just track that separately. Because we would know when that is. It's after the application is submitted. Yeah. In the 20 to 30, and I think it'll be on the lower end of that.
I think there's one other question.
So what I understand is that the process is that we say yes to this, and the architects come in and we pay them hourly for the 20 or 30,000, and then they create a design, and then we say yes or no based on that. Is that what happens once we get the design?
So she's saying, so you're, yep, I'm sorry, I'll go ahead and try to repeat. So she said, so basically, the 20 or 30,000, you're gonna create the design based on what is needed to meet the FEMA project grant needs for this tornado safe area. And
We're going to write some narratives that are part of the application. And then there's a very detailed cost estimate spreadsheet that we will be using. It's a FEMA spreadsheet to populate as much detail as we can. We've been told in previous applications, the more detail we can show positions you better to win the FEMA funding. So we do a really detailed cost estimate.
And I think the other part of her question was also that when you do that design, that does not come back to the board. That's just gonna get submitted with the grant notification or the grant submission. And then once that's submitted, they'll go through and ask you all the questions and all that stuff. And then if we do get approved for it, that's when actually like the full design will begin. Is that a true statement? And then we would have more input on what that looks like and stuff like that.
We'll be reviewing the conceptual design with you before we submit the grant application.
As far as the board approving it, like is the board approval needed before we submit that grant application?
I think there is an authorization of the completed application, but informally, we want to, schedule a work session with you guys at some point to show you what the conceptual design, is looking like and what the budget is looking like and what all the numbers are before we make the submittal.
That makes sense.
Is it offered annually or is this like one time?
Yeah, that there's the question, is this offered annually or is this a once-a-year?
This is an annual cycle. So basically, every January, you can submit a BRIC grant through FEMA. So if for some reason you didn't get awarded, you can take all that information, improve it to get more points, and then submit it again next year.
Kevin, under that grant, the 30,000 of expense up front to you, is that refundable through the grant back to us?
So, the question was the 30,000, and I think you kind of referenced it, that the money that would pay you for this initial design can get put towards the work effort if we are awarded the grant, correct? At 20 or 30?
That's correct. And this money also is included in the grant application. So FEMA would refund you that money as well.
Essentially, move forward. I know there are all different things that we're voting on. Sorry. So essentially to move forward, even though I know there are different things we're voting on, if we vote on one, it doesn't make sense to vote on one and not the rest. So then are we voting basically as to the 20,000 and the 13,750 and what about the 75,000 that as well?
Only if we're awarded and then the amount that we present under that, we qualify to have that 75,000 covered.
So then if we're not awarded, then
We
it's,
don't have to pay the 75,000.
but we do still pay the 20,000 plus the 13,000. And that's just gone. And then we could potentially use it next year. Okay. Thank you.
So Kevin, question on that. Christina brings up a good point. If the when the 20,000 or 20 to 30,000 is paid to you for all the design work and we get denied, next year we come around again and we want to do it, is that 20 to 30,000 less? Is it the same amount? How does that work?
You don't have to spend that again. If we're sticking with the same design, what there might be is you may develop some different strategies to position yourself better to get more points. It's a 100-point game that you're trying to get all 100 points. 40 points of that are related to the EDRC, which is the Economically Disadvantaged Rural Community, which you comply with. But there are other categories. One of those is nature-based design. FEMA really wants you to do stormwater management. We can capture another 10 points by including a stormwater detention pond as a part of the project and size it for something that's even bigger than the current, project that's there. We just did that in Marshalltown, Iowa, and we sized it for the entire stadium complex for the same what we did there. For example, if that was something we added next year to try and get more points, you would only pay for that little bit of extra design work or additional questions that might come up during the second round. So you might be paying $5,000 next year if you didn't get it this year, for example.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much, Kevin. I appreciate you taking the time to walk us through that. Very helpful. All right. So we will go back then to 6.6, which is approval of the contract with FEH FEMA grants. I entertain a motion. If I have no motion, it will die.
I'm struggling, I really am, with everything that we have going right now, that we're going to commit. I'm not saying that this is not a great project, but the timing of this project and the shortness of decision making that we have, I'm I'm struggling with spending that money. Yeah. We would. Possibly could, that's true, but again,
I'd love to see us look at this for next year. Like what we just have, I just wanted to, they're pulling together at the last minute as well. And it has to be so high quality. Why would we, you know, I know it's a year difference, but like why wouldn't we just go for it next year for the first time?
That's what I'm going to approve it now, so you understand that we're going to have this meeting next year. That way you can talk about the planning and not rush anything.
But we might end up paying some more again next year. Maybe.
Well-
It's not submitted that they can do this work, and it's not rushed into.
I hear what you're saying,
Instead of, they'd have a year and a month to submit it instead of a month. If we approved it now, they could start doing the work. And after that time, we get it and make sure that we have enough funds now.
Yeah. we're still approving the funding. We're approving the funding, and that's the part that I'm struggling with, is that we're gonna approve to spend $20,000 to $30,000. They're gonna start some work, we're really not gonna submit it until next year. Why can't we just revisit it? Yeah, why can't we revisit it like in September and say, hey, we know this is coming, let's spend it now. Like, we're ready to spend it, let's do it now. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking with the architect and Jordan, the timeline is we have to submit it by then, but it gives time for design. They have plenty of time to make the design and turn it. They want to get it going now, so we can submit it, see where most of the items fall on the criteria team grant, and also, like you said, they did the first year, they submitted it in the second year, and they fine-tuned it a little bit. So that's why I think TJ and FEH and Jordan, us, want to get this going now to get it in. Sure.
So they
They think they have a better chance of doing it getting it this year, and also, if it doesn't turn down these fine-tuned deals.
I don't know.
I mean, not specifically that, I mean, I don't know.
So when we do this, and we submit it, we pay $15.75, we have to pay $15.75 next
No,
year.
that's a one-time, that's a one-time consulting fee for him, $13,750, and the
It
next
takes
year.
5 years to get it through. He does it every year. until he
That's
gets
his,
it.
I just asked him that, and that's his guarantee on his consulting. That he's done consulting, he's got everything in place, that's a one-time fee for him.
And then Jordan and Kevin both felt confident that they would have time to get one done well, not thrown together by that time.
So he said a lot of some of the work's been done, so I assume he's going off some of the plans from 5 years ago.
Right, we have FEH, we have all of that stuff from when we did our referendums.
We have already planned kind of thing.
So, 6.6, action item, approve contract with FEH FEMA grant project. We are looking for a motion. If we have no motion, we are not voting, so there's no need to put your cards on the table, so. We will have 6.6, action item has died. 6.7, action item, approve agreement with Jordan Bus Consulting with JVD Solutions FEMA grant project. Entertain a motion? Just letting it go through the process. I'm just letting it go through the process. All right, so that motion has died as well. 6.8, action item, approve resolution authorizing execution of sub-grant agreement with City of East Dubuque. This has no monetary value to it. I don't know, is it worth having that in place so we can continue having the conversations? You know, if we are looking at wanting to do that to next year. I mean,
I would say you're better off getting that one approved right away, because there's no timeline on this.
6:10, or what?
One with the, something with the city of East Dubuque. 6.8.
yeah, 6.8. So basically, it's just an intergovernmental. So basically, this is just saying that they would partner with us to go through, and they would be the municipality that is involved in the FEMA. Right. All right, it's been moved by ESTA to approve the resolution authorizing execution of sub-grant agreement with City of East Dubuque. Is there a second? It's been seconded by Dan. Roll call, please. I know there's no money, but I still want to go through roll call. Aye.
Tower. Aye. Sent.
Aye.
Holden. Aye. Dollar.
And 6.9 is approved municipality assumption agreement, which that's part of the same piece.
So moved.
Been moved by Dave, seconded by Dan. I guess Esta, sorry. And roll call for that as well, please.
Tower. Aye. Sent.
Aye.
Holden. Aye. Dollar.
Aye.
Hood.
Aye. Moving on, 6.10, approve contract with Voco Vision Speech Therapy. So I believe this is what Mr. Heyer was referencing previously in regards to the speech language pathology efforts. So you know, I don't see anything.
Is there any money associated with this?
Definitely is. It's expensive.
Is it?
I don't know the exact number, I wasn't part of that process on it. I don't know the exacts.
We don't have any.
I'm not gonna back it, but so I do be able to speak to that part. But I do know in order to be in compliance with IEPs,
Oh, so this is a requirement that we have.
well, in order for us to meet your obligation to meet the IEPs of students at the elementary school and the resources of kids at Junior High, we need to approve I should actually, that's a great suggestion, because the needs are very legit, it's not just for us, they're very.
Yeah, right.
That's the, I will honestly,
That's kind of
what's
why,
running through my head, like.
I know, that's what I was thinking, what's the amount of money we're gonna be approving here?
How many of us do that?
Well,
Can we
part of
put that
that's
towards a
we're having a
salary?
different conversation, because.
Is their contract.
We have a contract requirements that we have to follow per the, collective bargaining, that's like a legal thing. Per the collective bargaining,
Oh,
only
that's right.
allowed to
You
give
should know that.
up to 10 years of something experience.
Okay.
And so the individuals we looked at, they all had more than that. So we weren't able to match up.
Yeah.
There's where the hiccups are. So I agree with that philosophy 100%.
If we have to approve it, I mean, obviously, like, that's what, and it's obviously really important. I feel better if I had a number in front of me, because then you do what you feel like making a more educated decision. But like,
I mean, it
you
was
still
an
get the number
hourly
after
rate,
the
I
fact.
want to say it was $100.
Well, I know the, I was just gonna say, I know the hourly rate is incredible. It's, I think it was just under, I don't know, it was like $99.50 or $145, $100.50 an hour. It's a lot.
And would we be paying that every week, or is it just that out on an on-at-need basis?
So she'll be working, I mean, it's essentially she'll be working 10 hours a week, essentially. So, yeah, it's fast. And like I said, I just don't know the exact contract number. What, sorry.
So, the other
She was 4 days a week. 8 hours a week. She's, well, she's, so, I don't know the, like I said, without the contract, I just don't know that part, do that piece. But I know when we talked about it, it was between working 8 to 12 hours, what the needs essentially were, based on the number of kids and IEPs now in the service.
it's like an interim solution, right?
There absolutely is that, because we're really not obligated to keep it forever, like we prefer, like we said from the beginning. And in full disclosure, the conversation and the contract with Jackson is the exact same. She said to us from the beginning, at any point, if you find somebody full time, and you want to work instead of me, I completely understand, I will happily retire completely, and allow you guys to run with that person, so don't ever feel bad about that in any capacity. So that same agreement is exactly with Raymond as well.
Hey, Wes, let me ask this question. Since we have a money responsibility being on the board here, are we putting anything at peril if we table this until next month so we can see what the cost of this month? I get that we have to act, but does it put us behind the 8 ball or put us in a bad position?
I mean, it does in terms of, we do want to start this as soon as possible, technically, we want to start now. And so, you know, because like, the kids just aren't being serviced, that's what we're going down to. So, by table it is a hiccup there, but I don't blame you for a second, I agree, I agree that number.
Could we approve it for 1 month, and then come back and like approve it, like, you know, like, fine to like just get it approved for now, so we're not actually doing that, this is appropriate.
I think that's, I know that's what I'm saying. Yeah, let's have a special meeting.
If you want, I can try and call DJ and have a special meeting.
I texted them.
Wes, did you hear that?
I'm so sorry.
Could we get the information that we need and have a set a special meeting for Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday of next week? And that way we'll have the information coming in and knowing what we're approving.
I actually think that's a very responsible approach to.
So a lot of
Yeah,
that.
and honestly, from my end too, it's not, like I said, I noticed that you guys, it's most of them, it's one of that would allow at least me to be able to say, yes, we're starting right after Thanksgiving. You know, so
Yeah.
that would be the time that
Yeah.
promise people and follow through,
Yeah.
essentially.
I'd be open to that.
Yeah.
So-
Get information and have a meeting in the first part of next week before Thanksgiving.
TJ just got back to me. He said it's $99 an hour,
Okay.
and we need 12 hours a week.
Okay.
So you're looking at about $1,200 a week.
Until we were able to find somebody to take the position. So we got the figures.
Yeah, no, okay. I mean, it has to be done. Yeah, it has to be done. It feels better knowing for sure what we're looking at. But, I mean, it's nice to have that to put that in the drive, maybe, I don't know, change that will allow us to get.
Do you want to?
You guys feel comfortable with what it's got?
That's the set number, yes.
See, it's a track.
As long as, like you said,
It's tough.
we can
Yeah.
get out any, at any time.
It's a higher rate than what we're paying now. Like, and I don't, you know that, but that's the crazy part about
Yeah,
it.
it's a really unfortunate.
And we negotiated down from coverage just to get this in. This is getting a little more.
We have a motion to approve.
All right, it's been moved by Dan, seconded by Christina. Roll call, please.
Sent,
Aye.
Holden, Delver,
Aye.
Hood,
Aye.
Zeller,
And moving on to 6.11, approve intergovernmental agreement with City of East Dubuque. It's been moved, seconded. Roll call, please. Yep.
Holden, Delver,
Aye.
Hood,
Aye.
Zeller, Sent,
Aye.
All right. Any other new business? All right, moving on to personnel.
I make a motion that we approve the personnel items as stated on the November 20th agenda for the monthly school board meeting, Board of Education.
It's been moved by Dave, seconded by Esta to approve personnel as stated on the agenda. Roll call, please.
Delver,
Aye.
Hood,
Aye.
Zeller, Sent,
Aye.
Holden,
I would like to wish Ms. Snyder all the best on her maternity. And welcome back, David Small and Liz Reynolds. Moving on to President's Prerogative, I did want to discuss, we're gonna have to start getting into evaluation of TJ. And I was thinking this year I would like to get survey of staff, students, and community that we could leverage in regards to our evaluation process. Is there anybody that would like to look at trying to put together survey items?
I would go with it.
Christina, Dave? All right, so if you guys wanna look at it, and, you may wanna touch base with TJ. I know they've had surveys in the past that they've done, so I don't know if you wanna use that as a baseline. And
Sure.
go from there, or just start scratch and, go from there. So, yep, so I know there's something there, but I think it'd be a good idea. It's been a few years since we've done one, so.
When should we have the survey?
I would say we wanna have the survey out probably early January, and then, so we wanna try to have the evaluation for TJ done by probably February's, board, so. All right, so that's all I have. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Dave, seconded by Christina. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Dan's like,
I'm a one processor.
Well, the girl